This training is about 20 minutes in length and is intended to give you an overview of the personnel rules and some associated executive orders. Also, to help you understand our expectation of your obligation to comply with these documents. If you need additional information or more detailed information about the personnel rules, we ask you to go to the Administration and Information Human Resource website and search the official copies of these documents so that you understand in detail what your obligations are. The personnel rules are a public document and they require public comments before changes can be made. The current version was issued on July 1st, 2019. You can search online for Wyoming State Personnel Rules and view by chapter, or you can download a PDF of the full rules. I recommend the full rules as it allows for a comprehensive text searches regarding the subject of interest. A&I is the agency that provides direction and coordination for the other operating agencies in state government. Although the Department of Health can write policies that are specific to the agency, these policies can't conflict or override the personnel rules. Department of Health employees are all members of the executive branch of Wyoming State Government. A&I HRD has sole authority to interpret the personnel rules, although they do encourage the agency HR office to discuss any concerns about the rules with them. We will hold you accountable to the personnel rules, and we govern the HR activities according to them. They are the first source of reference for decisions made in the Human Resources Office. By understanding the personnel rules, you can predict, in most cases, how the Human Resources Office will act on issues that you bring to them. Sections 6 and 7 address equal employment opportunity and discrimination in sexual harassment. We're now going to jump out of the personnel rules and review the Governor's Executive Order 2000-4 titled Anti-Discrimination. We do not tolerate discrimination based on or related to race, religion, color, sex, or gender, national origin, age, or disability. We do not tolerate any form of retaliation against employees who file complaints about these actions or who participate in the investigations of these actions. The next 3 slides list actions or behaviors that are prohibited by this executive order. We can simplify this message by encouraging you to treat every coworker, client, customer, resident, or patient with respect. If we remember to always treat each other respectfully, then the prohibitions listed will not be violated. Please note that you will be expected to abide by this and other executive orders, and they become the basis of enforcement of disciplinary actions if these prohibitions are ignored. A qualified handicapped person is a person who is able to perform the essential functions of their job, with or without an accommodation. Many handicaps are visible, such as a vision or mobility impairments. Other handicaps, such as learning disabilities, mental health issues, and so forth, are not as visible. If you need an accommodation to more effectively perform your work, please contact the Human Resources Office to have a conversation with the manager regarding the nature of your disability and the accommodations that could mitigate it. Any other contact that violates applicable discrimination law can be a broad range of behaviors. However, if your behavior is always respectful, then you will be successful here. If you see something, say something. If you witness any behavior among coworkers that you believe is a violation of this executive order, agency policy, state or federal law, we encourage you to report it to your supervisor or the Human Resources Office. You will be protected from retaliation for making this report. When the Human Resources Office is aware of inappropriate behavior, they conduct an investigation to determine the validity of the complaint. This investigation usually consists of interviewing the person who made the complaint, interviewing the individual or the persons against whom the complaint is made, and interviewing potential witnesses who may have observed the behaviors in question. If the investigation reveals that these unsuitable behaviors occurred, then appropriate disciplinary action will be taken to stop the behaviors. The investigation and following disciplinary actions are kept in the strictest possible confidence. Back now to the personnel rules. Section 8 addresses substance abuse. The Wyoming Department of Health provides care and treatment to very vulnerable people in the 5 facilities throughout the state. For this reason, the agency has adopted a drug and alcohol policy that is a little more restrictive than this section of the personnel rules. You will learn about this policy in a separate training program. The Wyoming Department of Health Human Resources Office keeps a personnel file on every employee. You may view the contents of your own personnel file by making an appointment with the HR manager or their designee. In addition to you, your supervisor, manager, division senior administrator, agency director, and the A&I Human Resources staff also have the right to view your personnel file. Anyone else who wishes to view your personnel file must receive written permission from you before the Human Resources Office will grant them access. This is a list of rights that supervisors and managers have by virtue of their position. If you believe that your supervisor is acting beyond his or her authority, please consult this section before making a complaint or filing a grievance. In addition to treating others respectfully, we expect all employees to be courteous, considerate, and impartial in dealing with and serving the public. We will again leave the personnel rules temporarily and look at Executive Order 1997-4, known as the Code of Ethics. This executive order is the standard by which your behavior will be measured. I will now explain the importance of avoiding both impropriety and the appearance of impropriety. The Wyoming State Legislature consists of 30 senators and 60 representatives who are elected to their positions, yet they volunteer their time for the 1 or 2 months when the legislature is in session. They receive reimbursement for their expenses and a per diem for food, lodging, and travel, but otherwise are not compensated for their service to the state. Therefore, they spend the majority of the year in their own communities, pursuing their occupations and interfacing with their constituents. The populations of the 2 largest counties in Wyoming are 80 and 99,000 respectively, which means that most communities are very small, and people in these communities know a lot about their neighbors. If a Department of Health employee behaves inappropriately or gives the appearance of impropriety, word gets around in these small communities, and the reputation of the agency can be easily damaged in the eyes of our legislators. The legislature establishes our budget. When the agency has strong credibility among the legislators, we have a better chance of receiving approval of our budget. But when the credibility or the reputation of the agency is weakened in any way, this gives legislators cause to question our requests. This is why we so strongly encourage our employees to serve with integrity and avoid any form of impropriety or even the appearance of impropriety. We expect our employees to comply with laws and policy. If you are uncertain about the policies governing your program or duties, please discuss this with your supervisor. Uncooperative situations drain the resources of the HR office and everyone involved. If you are a supervisor, please monitor employee interactions and help to resolve conflict where appropriate. The state of Wyoming has a cadre of certified mediators who can arrange a mediation session at no charge to you. Protecting and conserving state property is most often violated by using equipment or supplies for personal use. Please use the resources provided to you for official state business and not for personal gain. Your intent is often invisible, but your appearance or behavior is what people will base their judgments upon. Think about how your actions will be perceived to others who are unfamiliar with your duties. The Department of Health administers a large number of contracts. If your position is responsible for any contract, you must ensure that the contractors you select are not related to you, are friends, or have any financial relationship to you or any of your family members. Contract awards must be given fairly and impartially. Involvement with the political process or social issues during business hours, while wearing agency apparel, phoning your representative from your state phone, emailing your representatives from your state email address are all examples of potential abuses of authority. In general, we are allowed to educate legislators, but not to lobby for a specific cause. Let's return to the personnel rules. Some state employees have second jobs, either another state position or a private sector job. For either of these situations, there should be no conflicting hours, and your performance in your primary state job must not be compromised. Where the second job is with another state agency, then prior approval of this situation must be given by A&I Human Resources Division, and the heads of both agencies must understand the agreement and give their permission. Be aware of other possible conflicts of interest. Agency Human Resources will confer with the Attorney General's office to review any potential conflict of interest. You have no expectation of privacy for any personal email or internet use. Any information on a state computer becomes the property of the state and is discoverable in legal proceedings. If your outside employment is a home-based business, then a potential prohibited activity would be using state computers to send email solicitations to customers or using the state offices to warehouse the inventory of your home-based business. Chapter 2 concerns recruitment and appointment. These chapters are primarily used by the Human Resources and A&I Human Resources Division. However, if you are a supervisor, you will likely be involved in filling a vacant position at some time, and at that time we strongly suggest reviewing Chapter 2 before you begin the recruitment process. Chapters 3 through 5 are generally handled by Human Resources. The A&I Human Resources website posts classification and compensation tables if you're interested in diving deeper into these documents. Chapter 6 explains the rules of governing leave. Full-time probationary employees earn leave at the rate of 8 hours of annual leave and 8 hours of sick leave per month. The sick leave accrual remains constant throughout your employment. However, the annual leave accrual increases as your tenure increases. With the beginning of your 5th year of employment, you will earn 10 hours of leave per month. Your leave accrual will increase incrementally until at 20 years of service you will accrue 16 hours of leave each month. Leave is not earned by employees classified as AWAC or at-will employee contract. If you are hired under an employee contract, you don't earn leave. Also, part-time employees who work less than 39 hours per month do not accrue annual leave. Please see Chapter 6 for charts explaining accrual rates for part-time employees. There are several different types of leave used in differing situations. Administrative review leave may be with or without pay and is given to an employee during investigations of misconduct, incapacity, commission of crimes, or investigations of other behaviors. Personal leave, up to 16 hours per year, can be granted as recognition of or for participating in established recognition programs, wellness initiatives, merit incentive programs, or to volunteer in pre-approved nonprofit community service activities. Leave without pay may be granted by your supervisor upon your written request if you have a need for leave but have no available leave to use. There are several other categories of leave, such as bereavement leave, court leave, military leave, legislative leave, to name a few. Details are found in Chapter 6. Family medical leave is granted to qualifying employees according to federal law. Wyoming has chosen to grant family medical leave concurrently with sick leave. This means that if the sick leave you are using also qualifies as family medical leave, you will use both types of leave simultaneously. Chapter 7 governs discipline for permanent employees, which is a progressive process. Probationary employees and at-will contract employees are not protected by the progressive nature of discipline as are permanent employees, but they will also receive counseling prior to employment-related actions that are being taken for disciplinary purposes. The Human Resources Office works closely with the Attorney General's Office in the administration of all forms of employee discipline. This is a list of actions or behaviors that would result in disciplinary action, regardless of the employee's current status or classification. Please note that it is not an exhaustive or all-inclusive list. This statement applies to all probationary employees until they have completed the terms of their probation, which is being employed for 365 days. The agency works closely with the Attorney General's Office when there is a need to dismiss any employee, and we are counseled to follow policy and procedure exactly to ensure fairness and equity when administering these decisions. The performance evaluation process affects all employees, but it is administered differently for at-will contract employees. All employees can expect regular feedback from their supervisor regarding their performance and their behaviors on the job. Probationary and permanent employees use an online system which is called the Performance Management Instrument, or PMI. You will interact with the system officially 3 times each year. The planning phase occurs in the months of April and May. The midterm coaching phase occurs in the months of September and October, and the final evaluation phase occurs in March and April. The overlap of the final evaluation and the planning phases enables your supervisor to combine your evaluation and planning discussions for continuity. Informally, you can interact with the PMI system throughout the year by giving and receiving feedback electronically, or by updating your progress towards specific performance goals, and adding agenda items to your regular feedback meetings with your supervisor. Training is available on the A&I website for both supervisors and employees on how to more effectively use the PMI system. If you are a supervisor, please note that the personnel rules require you to have completed an online training program before the beginning of February and to have at least 90 days of direct supervision of your employees. Both of these conditions together qualify you to conduct the final evaluation interview. These requirements do not apply to the other 2 phases of the PMI process. Service awards are given to employees for each 5 years of service. They consist of a certificate signed by the Governor of Wyoming and the agency director. The Human Resources Office is obligated to follow a very specific process when a reduction in force, commonly known as a layoff, is required. This rarely happens, and in most cases when the agency budget shrinks enough to require elimination of positions, these eliminations occur through attrition. Because reductions in force occur so infrequently, I encourage you to review Chapter 11 if you have an interest in or are concerned about the process that we are obligated to follow. This concludes our presentation, and we thank you for your time and attention. If you have any questions regarding the personnel rules, we encourage you to share those with your human resources representative. You are also encouraged to download or view a copy of the personnel rules online at the Administration and Information Human Resources Division website.